Thanks so much for your time. Boris Johnson says that the laws violate Hong Kong's autonomy, threaten freedoms that were protected under their joint declaration many years ago, and he's offering a expedited way into the UK, possibly safe haven visas for Hong Kongers. Should Australia be doing the same?
Well, Kieran, first let me acknowledge that what is happening in Hong Kong is quite concerning. It does undermine the two systems, one country agreement that Beijing signed up to. And it's understandable that the United Kingdom are making this offer. They, of course, have a special relationship with Hong Kong. And my understanding is that Prime Minister Johnson is making an offer specifically to British national overseas passport holders. It remains to be seen how the rest of that might play out from the UK. But weeks ago, the United Kingdom flagged to like-minded countries that they were looking for assistance in potentially giving some form of haven to Hong Kong citizens. At that time, Labor's Foreign Affairs spokesperson Penny Wong and I put out a statement encouraging the government to act with some urgency to clarify what existing visa classes would be available to Hong Kong citizens. But Kieran, can I make an observation here? Right now in Australia, there are about 17,000 Hong Kong citizens on a form of a temporary visa. Most of them are students, some of them are working holiday makers. The government could act with some urgency right now to clarify the situation for those 17,000 Hong Kong citizens who are currently in Australia, because nobody should be involuntarily deported to Hong Kong right now. And if the Prime Minister has had a proposal on his desk for weeks, as he said earlier today, well, every day those temporary visas are expiring, and he should act with some urgency to make clear what the pathway is for those Hong Kong citizens who are in Australia right now.
He's talking about safe haven, though, and the Cabinet's going to be making a judgment on that soon. Do you welcome that sentiment?
I welcome the sentiment. What the government needs to do now is, with some urgency, make clear how they're going to use the existing visa classes to provide a form of haven for those Hong Kong citizens. And I pointed out the 17,000 that are currently in Australia. The Immigration Minister could act today. It doesn't require legislation. It is something the Immigration Minister, Alan Tudge, could do today. When it comes to whether there's a form of haven offered, there are many Australian citizens who have come from Hong Kong who no doubt have family who are still there, and the government could, I'm sure, would satisfy many of their concerns if they acted with some urgency to make clear what types of visa categories would be available to those family members.
Okay. Well, it's obviously something that I think most Australians would support. This is something, however, that would likely, do you expect more backlash from China? It's already coming a tense period, isn't it?
Well, the Prime Minister made clear we're not acting unilaterally here, and we acknowledge that. We are in a group of like-minded countries, including the United Kingdom. We don't know who else they have consulted with, but quite clearly we are in discussions. But the UK has now acted. The UK has made clear what they're going to do, and there is an opportunity here now for the government to step up. If they've had a proposal on their desks for weeks, it shouldn't take too long. And as I said, Kieran, particularly for those 17,000 Hong Kong citizens who are currently in Australia, I'm sure many of them are stressed and concerned. The Prime Minister, through the Immigration Minister, could act quite quickly in those circumstances.
We've got the start of the financial year. The Tax Office website apparently was overwhelmed yesterday. What have you picked up from your Senate committee hearing? You're a member of this committee looking at the impact of COVID-19. Particularly, I'm thinking the amount of young Australians who are accessing their superannuation. What's the latest numbers on that?
Well, figures out today show that nearly 500,000 people under 35 have completely depleted their superannuation account. And Kieran, that's quite alarming. And the evidence we heard today would suggest that that is going to have such a long tail, such a long burden for those young Australians. And in the context of the government has given out $10,000 grants or more to businesses, but yet when it comes to young Australians, they basically said, you have to dip into your own savings and fund yourself. if you might be a casual worker, you might be in one of the categories that's been left behind and excluded by this government from JobKeeper and JobSeeker. But the evidence we heard today is those young Australians who are now at zero balance in their superannuation funds, these people under 35, they're going to have to work longer in their careers. They are going to be more reliant on government support and pensions in their older age. We are literally robbing their future, asking them to rob their future to support themselves right now.
One final issue I want to get your thoughts on is Ed Monero. You were out there campaigning yesterday alongside John Barilaro, all the few...
In fact, I was at a booth with John Barilaro at one point during the day.
Yeah, no, I did see that. We had some coverage of that. So what's your sense of things? I mean, is Labor going to hold on to the seat? Not a good look. Damaging, as Mr Howard told me a bit earlier, if Labor were to lose it.
We are in an extraordinary by-election here, aren't we? It's a 1 in 100-year pandemic. We are in a by-election where we've got, on these boundaries, Labor would never hold the seat unless Mike Kelly's the candidate. But yet we've got an extraordinary candidate in Kristy McBain, someone who even Liberal Senator Jim Molan and John Barilaro have nice things to say about her. Karen, I was at the polling booth yesterday. I heard National Party supporters giving voters the tip to vote one National, two Labor. John Barilaro wasn't doing a heck of a lot of campaigning. He was sort of standing around watching what was happening.
Which National supporters? Was it John Barilaro himself?
No, I did not hear John Barilaro. I don't mean to suggest that, but we had... In fact, I was standing next to Kristy when a National Party voter came over and showed us how to vote. He said, but I'm going to follow the advice they just gave me and vote one National, two Labor. I'm voting, for you. And so it is interesting that there seemed to be a bit of friction. I didn't see a lot of cohesion between the Nationals and the Liberals. And, frankly, Kieran, at the end of the day, I think the people of Eden Monaro know that this government has left them behind. They left them behind during the bushfires. They've left them behind during the drought. They've left them behind during COVID. And they know that Kristy McBain is the kind of person who's going to stand up and fight for them.
Kristina Keneally, thanks.
Thank you.